Hello and welcome to TNT with Texas Paul and Tennessee Brando. I am your co-host, Texas Paul.
And I'm Tennessee Brando, and it's great to be with you guys.
Glad you could be here. This is the inaugural show of TNT. I hope you enjoy it. We're going to kick it off with a little bit about what's happening in the news today.
Yeah.
Old Trump's got his ass in the crack, man. I'm telling you. Brando, did you see that stuff out of Manhattan, Letitia James?
I did. I was at work today and got the news, and like I was telling you earlier today, I was like, there's so much stuff happening so fast these days. There's stories breaking so fast, we're going to have a hard time keeping up with it all.
Yeah, I tell you, it's crazy. It's crazy. I was glad to see it though. I was actually a little disappointed. I was looking for an indictment today from Letitia James, but I'll take a civil suit. I'll take a civil
Absolutely.
suit. She actually did make a referral to the DOJ through the prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. So we'll see. She's handing it off to old Merrick Garland, apparently.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens there. Did you hear how much that she's suing him for?
Oh, no, I didn't.
$250 million.
Wow.
Yeah. She's suing Trump. She's suing the Trump organization. She's suing the Trump revocable trust. She's suing all three kids. She's suing the executives at the company. I think she's suing the guy that opened the doorman. I think she's suing the guy that parks the car. She's suing there.
Yeah.
She's suing everybody, man. Yeah, but it was bad. It was bad. Some of the stuff she was talking about, Washington Post had a great article on it today where they broke it down. The biggest points of it was like he inflated. This one kills me, man. He inflated the size of his own apartment from 11,000 square feet, which is a big ass apartment, man. You know what I mean? I mean, what could you do with 11,000 square feet?
Yeah. Of course.
I mean, shit. You could park a yacht in that,
Yeah.
But he inflated that to 30,000 square feet. Who the hell besides the Queen of England has a 30,000 square foot home?
I know. It doesn't surprise me at all, though. That's always been his MO, man, is to, blow up things bigger. He's always worried about crowd size. He's always worried about, how many people tuned in, the ratings. So none of this really surprises me. But I know there's a long list of stuff there that he definitely inflated and did.
Man, and that's not the end of it. He added floors to his buildings. I mean, literally it's 32 floors. We'll just say it's 35. Just to increase the square footage of his buildings when he was applying for loan. This was a good one too. He was invested in this company called Brando Partnerships. Mm-hmm. And you remember for the longest time, nobody would loan Trump money, right? I mean, not a damn dime.
Yeah.
They're telling you to crank up your volume, Brando.
Okay.
But sorry, bud. Wrong button. Let me see if I can help you out with that. Edit mic volume. No, I can't crank your volume, bud. You're gonna have to do that on your own.
Well,
but anyways, like I was saying, he was a partner in Brando Group, just invested in it. So he claimed all their liquid capital as his own.
Wow.
I'm not even kidding, man. That's like, I own some Coca-Cola stock, but, so I'll just claim, I've got go apply for a loan and write down that I've got about $2 billion in liquid assets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, that guy's a crook. No, man, but in one deal, he claimed their cash. They had $14 million on hand. Another deal, he claimed their cash. They had $93 million on hand.
So he's just claiming.
I am not even good.
So he's just claiming anything he wants to, just making it up as he goes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. his 40 Wall Street location, he doubled the value of that one from 220 to $540 million when he was trying to refinance it because he was out of cash at the time and couldn't make his, everybody was waiting for him to default on his loans. So he ended up getting a loan. Alan Weisselberg, the guy that runs the company, he ended up getting a loan from the company that his son is a director at.
Wow.
Yeah, nobody else. He got turned down. He tried to get a loan from Capital One. They turned him down. Yeah. It got so bad the accountants were putting disclaimers on the applications they were filling out for him saying that we didn't verify this shit. This is just what he told us. You can't sue us.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, the kids are in trouble too. You got, I tell you what, Letitia James did a hell of a job. She went, I swear to God, she inspected his colon, man. Yeah. I am not kidding. She did. She went up one side of him, back down the other. She's got Junior. And that pissed me off too, because you had Bill. Did you see that deal with Bill Barr today?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God. Bill Barr's crying. You can't go after the kids. That's over the line. Well, they're not kids. No. One's 38, one's 40, and one's 44. Yeah. It's a family business, Yeah,
they're all grown adults.
I mean, seriously, man. These are not children. That pisses me off to no end.
They're always going to turn this, though, man. They're always going to turn this to make themselves the victim, and that's something they've been doing from day one. Is attempting to be the victim in the story and make it out like that. The evil liberals are coming after them and making their life hard. And it's going to be interesting to see if there's ever going to be a point where more people starts to turn away from it and realize they've been played, because there's no way that this much stuff could come out and not have truth and merit behind it. It's crazy that there's still people out there today backing this stuff up.
Yeah, man, it's insane. It is. It is insane. They hold on. I'm trying to add us a moderator in here.
Okay.
There you go. Boom. There you go. We're set. We got a moderator. Anybody gets out of hand, we got them under control. Awesome. But yeah, Junior was responsible for, he's got each of the kids doing different shit, right?
Yeah.
He's got Eric managing the golf courses. He's got Ivanka. That's his pitch man. Ivanka goes around pitching all the deals because I don't know. Maybe she's a smooth talker. I don't know. But Junior, he's got in charge of some of his New York properties. And Junior, when he was filing financial statements on those properties, just decided to leave out the rent stabilized units and increase the value of the property sixfold.
Wow.
That's balls like church bells, man. That really is balls like church bells. Really just, is. I think I'm going to go apply for a loan on my house, man. What the hell? We'll say it's worth $2 million today.
Yeah. It's crazy, but the lengths they'll go to, and people like us, everyday, working people, we go through the world, being honest about things and just being straight up. Recently I went to get my car registered, and what's funny is I didn't realize, that whatever value you tell them the car's at is kind of what you end up paying in taxes. And so I just was honest, and I was like, hey, this is what I paid for my car. And my dad kind of leaned in and was like, you should have told him a lot less, And I was like, I didn't know. I'm just being honest about it, and then ended up, paying what I was supposed to pay. But people like Trump and his kids, and that's the thing, they're not children, but they're gonna paint this narrative that, oh man, these evil liberals went after the guy's kids, like we went after toddlers or something. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's it just shows it's what Republicans are now, man. It's what they are. It used to be, everybody keeps telling me about these. Well, you can't lump all Republicans. You can't lump all Republicans. Bullshit. Republicans are MAGA now. Republicans are Trump.
They are.
You know, I mean, and they do the same shit. Old Ted Cruz was on television today lying again about those immigrants and shit like that. Anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked. Let me tell you what happened with the kids in this lawsuit.
Okay.
This was good. Junior, like I said, was signing off from 2016 to 2020. The valuation on his properties up by the park, they were just willingly declared that was 6 times the value. Ivanka, she's in big trouble. If this didn't, I don't know the statute of limitations on this one. Maybe somebody smarter than me will know the statute of limitations on this kind of crime. But apparently she was well informed that the financial statements they were using as far as liquidity and valuations on properties and everything else were bullshit. She went to the GSA. You remember they bought the old post office from the GSA?
Yeah.
And made it the Trump Hotel in D.C.
Yeah.
She used knowingly false statements to report their valuations to the GSA, and then turned around and used the same false statements to get loans from Deutsche Bank. So, yeah, I mean,
Wow.
she's in a bad way, man. I don't know about you, but I try not to piss off the federal government too bad.
Exactly. I know. Yeah.
And then Eric, of course, you know, the dumb one. They got him down at the Westchester property, the Seven Springs golf course. They said literally every single aspect of the financial statements that he used to get loans on that property, they said literally every aspect of those financial statements were false.
Wow.
There was not a declaration of any valuation or monetary value or anything that was accurate in the entire process. And when they asked him about it, did you put these together? He pled the fifth.
Of course he did. But I thought only criminals and mobsters pled the fifth.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
Yeah.
No kidding. Only criminals and mobsters. And that pretty much well describes Trump. Anyways, I want to bring up something. Let me pull it up for you.
Okay.
All right. There we go. If you're not following Judd Legum, that's how he pronounces his name, Legum. You're really missing out. You are really missing out. He, let me pull it up. There we go. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me pull it up. Won't take me but a second.
All right.
There we go. All right, we got Judd Legum there, and I don't know if you can see this clearly or not, but this is the release that he had, that old DeSantis had the asylum seekers sign off on. He turns out, it was just, I can't think of a shittier way to do this. He put them up in a hotel, and then he tells them if they want food, he's got McDonald's, of course, fucking McDonald's. He's got McDonald's gift cards, and he tells them if they want food, they got to sign this. But if you could if you can read it, the center portion of it up here is in English.
Yeah.
He's only got part of it in Spanish that they can understand, but the part that says, "Hey, you can't sue me and I'm not liable," well, that part is in English. So basically, he's up the creek without a paddle, because you've got to act in good faith. And when you're having somebody sign an agreement like this, you've got to be acting in good faith and knowing. And the fact that most of it's in Spanish, he knows for a fact that these people can't read English. Yeah. So he puts the important part that says, "Hey, you can't sue me." Mm-hmm. But anyways, I was Judd Legum. If you're not following him on Twitter, he is an amazing reporter. He's just started his own online news organization. It's just, he's just amazing. Judd Legum is his name. He a lot of what he reports ends up being on the corporate news the next day or 2 days later or 3 days later. The guy is really sharp, man. He is really sharp. He was saying that that one of the most heinous parts about it was that this lady, which a lot of people are speculating it's DeSantis's assistant, ended up being Perla. I don't remember if you remember hearing about Perla, the lady that was doing the recruiting. Gave him a cell phone number. That's how she made him feel comfortable. And she would take their calls and whatnot. The minute they dropped him off, the second they dropped him off, they turned off the cell phone.
Wow.
Could you imagine, Brando? Just anywhere in the States, man. Not even in Mexico. Let's say I ran you down to Zihuatanejo and just dropped you off and then cut off my cell phone. Good luck, man.
I know. It's crazy what these people will do and attempt to get away with. And, and a lot of things we see these days too, is they project so much upon us and tell everyone that, we're the ones doing these things. And then when we bring it out and show the evidence that they did it, the first thing they say is, "Well, that's fake news." And they've got like a continuous, it's like I feel like we're a cat chasing its tail, because we're always trying to pin them down and say, "We got you." And they're always going to project it back on us. That's always going to be their narrative, is that we're the ones trying to spread fake news and false narratives about them.
Yeah. I guess that's, like we were talking about the other day, the differences in Democrats and Republicans. Mm-hmm. You get these idiots all the time that says, "Well, I don't vote because they're both the same. They're both the same." Bullshit.
They're not.
That's a load of horseshit. That's a load of horseshit. And you got old Ted Cruz talking about, well, he owned us. We're all angry because, they're shipping people up to Martha's Vineyard and couldn't take it for a day, and they shipped them out right away. Well, shit, man, that island shuts down after Labor Day.
Yeah.
It does. 90% of the island shuts down after Labor Day. There's nothing there for them. There's no jobs. And the people there were great. They're walking up, hugging them, this, that, and the other. They arranged for, there's no way on and off the island. You got to fly to the island.
Yeah.
So they arranged for them to have a flight to Cape Cod, where they had facilities for them to stay in with their families. They're getting them legal help. I can't think of any more Christian thing to do, They're making sure they're taken care of. That's us, man. The only thing I was mad about, I don't know about you, Brando, but the only thing I was mad about was the fucking incompetence.
Yeah, absolutely. And so much, we've talked a lot about, a lot of people will say the two parties are the same, and there's a lot of people, Paul, that just aren't paying attention. They're not paying attention to what's going on, and if something doesn't affect them directly, and that's one of the biggest differences I see in the two parties is, we will care about other people and what they're going through, even if we're not in their boat. We don't have their lot in life. We're still concerned about what's going on. And with conservative voters these days, it's like, if it doesn't affect them, then they're not concerned about it. and and until it happens to them. And I've seen so many times in my life where I've seen them be for something or against something till it happened to them, and then you see them change their tune real quick. I've had family members, I hate to say it, but I've always said I've had members of my own family that were staunch Republicans and were against health care, against all these things until they got sick, and then suddenly they were changing their tune. And so when people says that the two parties are the same, I say they're not paying attention.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's bullshit. I've literally had people on welfare. I live out in the sticks, man. I live out in the, I do. I'm as it is dark at night. Put it that way. There ain't no street lights out here, brother. And I've talked to people that were on welfare, which I was glad they were. They had kids, man. They had kids. That's am I my brother's keeper? Hell yes, I am. That's why I pay my taxes. That's why I support programs, to help people. And I was glad. But this woman was bad mouthing people on welfare. And it was that same bullshit you always hear. That same bullshit you always hear. It was black folks just taking it all. And that's 100% the opposite of reality, because there are more white folks on receiving assistance than there are black folks.
There really are. And, I live up here in Tennessee. I'm right on the tri-state of Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. So I've known people in this part of the world that have literally went out and filed for government assistance in all three states under different addresses. They'll go out here and they will. They'll milk the system from every direction, and they're white Trump supporters, and they will sit and bash people on it. Meanwhile, they're on it. I remember one time one of the most heated arguments I ever got in was like in the comment section on Facebook. You know how it goes. And this guy argued with me about government assistance and was talking about how anyone on it was just lazy and didn't deserve it. And we go around in circles. And then finally, his own brother says to me, man, I didn't want to get in the middle of that argument because I didn't want my family mad at me, but I was dying to call my brother out and point out that he himself is on government assistance. And he's sitting there bashing everybody. It's like, I don't know. It's you may be in Texas and I may be in Tennessee, but man, there's towns like ours in every corner of this country, and people are going through the same thing, and people, seeing this the way it is.
Yeah, man. And I guess, and that's the difference. That is really the big difference is you had Ted Cruz had these talking points pre-programmed. They were ready to go with these talking points about how we were just angry and Abbott showed us and this, that, and the other. And it's bullshit. It's bullshit. Yeah. The only thing people were mad about was, dude, you didn't tell anybody. Why didn't you tell anybody they were coming? And we could have done something. You left these people hanging. You dropped somebody at the Naval Observatory where Kamala Harris lives. What are they supposed to do? Kamala Harris wasn't even there. I mean, what are these people supposed to do? You're just shitting on these people is what you're doing. You're just shitting on them. And as soon as the local churches from DC found out this happened, they ran out there. They gathered these people up. They put them, and they keep calling them homeless. They keep calling them homeless. If you're in a guaranteed shelter and you have a place to live with a phone, running water, bathrooms, showers, where you can get on your feet, you're not homeless, man. You're not. Yeah. You may technically not own a home, but you're getting back on your feet is what you're doing. Yeah. And these are, I don't know. It's not in me to hate these people. It's not.
Me either. No, I can't. It's and I don't understand. I'll never understand their hatred for it. I'll never understand their disdain. It's it's just been for the longest time we've saw Republicans paint this picture that it's everybody is the problem except the Republicans. That everyone else is the enemy, and they prey upon people. I'm sure it's the same way in Texas as it is here. They prey upon people who are just kind of like at the totem poles here. They're just kind of they're about midways up, not even that far probably. And they go to work every day. They ride back and forth listening to, these right-wing talk radio hosts. And they're just constantly telling them the reason they can't get ahead in the world is, well, the black man's your problem, and the Latinos your problem, and the gay people are your problem, and the Muslims are your problem. And they sit and say that, and they create an enemy that's not there. It's the old classic straw man argument. They build us up to be this thing that's supporting this, and then tear it down themselves, and keep people keep people in our part of the world voting against their own interest all the time.
Well, let's be honest about it, man. Where you live, where I live, it's the same thing. Old Lyndon Baines Johnson talked about it. He said, you tell the lowest white man that he is better than the best black man, and you will not have to pick his pockets. He'll turn his pockets out for you. And that's what it's all about. That's one of the
truest statements ever made. I catch myself,
that's
all the time.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's somebody for these MAGA people who normally don't get attention. Nobody gives them any kind of praise or anything for shit they do, because they're just like the rest of us, just going to work, getting shit done. And all of a sudden you've got Donald Trump telling them they're the salt of the earth and better than me and you and everybody else, and they've got Democrats to look down on. Man, they'll give up their lives before they give that up. You know.
And not to steer off course here, but it's kind of going with what we're saying. I remember, man, back in 2015, when I had this reality start to sink in that maybe Trump could actually win or beat, because I was wrong about him all along. And I thought, man, this has got to be a joke. There's no way this is really happening. And I'm a musician, and I play a lot of shows, and I go out and here in East Tennessee, and I'm going to be opening up it's a Southern rock, lineup. It's Molly Hatchet, Blackfoot, and Jimmy Van Zant, and I'm the opener. And I get there, and it was right around the time that we were having a lot of the arguments about the Confederate flag. And I get there, and there's like a sea of them. And I'm like, oh, God, this is what I'm playing to. And I get up there and begin to play my set. And between my set and somewhere in between the sets, this guy gets up. He's a radio disc jockey, and he starts talking to the crowd. And you could tell, honestly, I don't know that this man believed half of what he was saying, but I think he just looked out at a bunch of rednecks and said, I'm going to try to appease them. And he started talking about Trump and how that he liked Trump and how that Trump spoke for them. And the crowd began to cheer. And I'm standing over to the side of the stage. I finished my set, and I'm going, man, is this really happening? Could this possibly catch on, And then I thought to myself, okay, maybe it's catching on. But once they see him for what he is, like once they actually see him for what he is, then they'll come to their senses. And then here we are 6 years later. We're still here. And the more stuff that you point out and the more stuff that comes out, they just double down on the narrative and support him even further. And we're not having that moment where we go, aha, there it is. We got him, and they see through it. And I just remember that day. I'll never forget it, that day when I had that realization that, man, this nightmare, it might be coming true. Because honestly, at first I thought it was a joke. I thought he was just trying to strengthen his brand so he could have his own network or something. I really didn't think we would be sitting here doing this, honestly.
Well, yeah. I mean, you remember them reporting that he didn't think he was going to win either. It was supposed to be a grift. Yeah. They talked about him, how he looked like he'd seen a ghost when they walked up and told him, guess what? You won. And he had that, oh shit moment. What did I do?
I know. My mom actually said he reminded her of the dog that chased the car and finally caught it. It was like, what do I do now?
Yeah. And he thought he had a good deal going, man. But I tell you what, the guy just cannot be a criminal. He just cannot be a criminal. And that was the wrong pond to play in. I mean, this is not just going to end it for him. This is going to end it for his kids, everything he ever, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think he really cares about that. No, I don't think he gives a shit about those kids. Hey, man, we got a little breaking news here. Somebody was saying that Midas is reporting that the DOJ has won their case down there with Judge Eileen Cannon, and that the classified documents that they were arguing over, the special master said, look, this is bullshit. You remember he went to Trump and said, okay, prove you declassified this shit. And Trump said, no, I won't. So he said, so the special master turned out to be a huge mistake on his part. And they have taken and given all the classified documents back to the government already has them, but they said they don't have to give them up. But that's good news. That's good news to hear. I mean, I don't know about you, Brando. Can you come up with a good reason why he would have these documents?
I can't think of one. And one thing that I point out is even if you supported him, I mean, even if he was your guy, the guy is a loose cannon who cannot keep his mouth shut. I've never seen somebody who just spirals out of control. And we see him every day just continuing to spiral further and further out of control. And it's like, you want that guy to have those documents? You want that guy to have that kind of information? I mean, I'm sure if I thought about it, there's got to be people in our own party that we would go, well, he's an okay guy, but I don't want him having that. He's a little bit of a loose cannon. I mean, there was a time that people like us was worried about Joe Biden because he could definitely be off the cuff and he could definitely say things, out of nowhere. And there was a time where Democratic friends of mine was going, I don't know, man, Joe can, that can throw some left hooks when you least expect it. And I mean, to have a guy like Trump who just is so out of control and spiraling out of control, and then people says, yeah, I'm fine with him having those documents in his basement. It's like, I'll never understand it.
I remember when Trump was first elected, my wife just started crying. I mean, tears just started streaming. I was like, baby, it's going to be okay. And she turned around and she said, you don't understand, man. You don't understand. Said, you never worked. She's had top clearance before. She's had top clearances before. And she just flat out told me, says, you don't understand. Nothing's going to be safe. And she said that on day one. I mean, before the guy was even in office. Yeah. She said, nothing is going to be safe. Nothing will be sacred. And then we immediately had, the Russian ambassador and foreign minister in the Oval Office, which had never happened before. I mean, I don't know who needs to be told this, but an ambassador is usually a spy.
Yeah.
I mean, ours, theirs, exactly. Everybody's, and he's just sitting in the Oval Office. And that's when he burned that source from the Israelis, from the Mossad. Yeah. In that conversation, he burned one of their sources, and the Mossad was like, we will never give you information again, ever. Yeah. And it just rippled across Europe. I mean, it was just, and these people want him back, Brando. They want him back.
Oh, I know. And they'll go so far as to say they would vote for him if he was in prison. I mean, they go that far with it. There's, I don't know. It's like their minds are broken, man. And I hate to say that about people, but I can't think of a nicer way to say it. It's like their minds. I don't understand that when you say to someone, well, he could be indicted, he could possibly go to prison, and they say, well, it don't matter to me, I'd still vote for him. It's better than a Democrat, and that's something else that they drive home. I hear so many people say, well, at least they ain't a Democrat, or they'll throw in something like, well, at least they ain't trying to kill babies. They go to abortion or something like that. They go to those hot topic, tug at your heartstring issues, and they would take him back in a heartbeat, and it's crazy. I knew that it was bad, and then when we saw January 6th and everything that unfolded on that day, I said to myself, okay, surely this will be the eye-opener, and here we are, and it keeps getting worse, and I think it's going to get worse until he's finally out of the political arena.
Well, man, I tell you, I know a little bit about San Antonio, and I was doing a piece on Chief Salazar down there, who is, he's opened up that case on DeSantis, the investigation on DeSantis, to find out, because they just flat out defrauded those people, those asylum seekers. They just defrauded them. Javier Salazar, just as a side note, is the kind of chief. You know how we always talk about why don't the good cops speak up, and this and the other. He's one of the good cops, and he does speak up. He came out of the SAPD before he was a sheriff of Bexar County, and he did bike patrol for like 10 years. So he wasn't like stuck in a patrol car in his own bubble where he only talked to other officers and shit like that. I mean, he could, he was with the people. He could smell what was cooking in the restaurants. He could, I mean? And when they had to stop and take a break, they didn't go find a parking lot and park next to each other and shoot the shit with their windows down. When he had to take a break in a park where there were people,
Yeah.
And that's just the way he came up. I mean, Javier Salazar is a good cop. He really is.
Yeah.
And you know, just talking about San Antonio, there's a guy down there on an AM talk radio station that's been there forever. He's built up an audience. He's like the Rush Limbaugh of San Antonio. The guy's name is Trey Ware.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I had to listen to a show because I was reporting on Salazar, and Salazar was doing an interview with him. And I wanted to know what the righties were thinking.
Yeah.
And San Antonio is where they found these people. And believe me, if you do not speak English and you're trying to get started, San Antonio is where you want to be. It is a big city, man. I mean, it's geographically one of the largest cities in the country. Population-wise, one of the largest cities in the country, has one of the largest Spanish-speaking populations in the country. So if you're an asylum seeker and you're trying to get started over, you've got support there. You've got people to talk to. You've got good information. There are jobs and restaurants and construction and you know, just all over the place for these people to get where they can get started, start learning some English before they move on. You know, I mean, taking them out of San Antonio was just a damn crime. But this guy Trey Ware was going on about. He was really going after Chief Salazar. What crime did they commit? What crime did they commit? Can you tell me what state? He said, well, we're investigating it. But he painted this picture like, well, they were homeless and on the street. Well, they weren't homeless and on the street. They were in a shelter. They were in a center that was designed for asylum seekers. They were not on the street. So he lied about that. And said, then they put them up in a hotel and they fed them. And they gave them McDonald's gift cards. Yeah. If they would sign the release, you know. But he's like, well, they gave them haircuts and they gave them clothes and they put them up in a hotel that was better than they had before. And they should be grateful. And, you know, I could not believe what I was hearing, man. Yeah. And that's what breaks these people on the right. You know, I know I'm taking the long way around the mountain here, but that's what breaks these people on the right is you've got people like Trey Ware that will just sit there and flat out lie. Yeah. You know, you got Tucker Carlson that'll flat out lie. Yeah.
And people have a distrust for Democrats and liberals, people like us. They have this distrust and you know, and a lot of times they go looking for, you know, their preconceived notion, what they think, you know, and they go for that. And once they find it, they latch onto it because it's so easy. You know, nowadays when you're talking to people, we've all got a cell phone. Everybody's cell phone is kind of tailored to their likes and what they're interested in. So the minute someone like us speaks up and says, "Hey, this just came out. This is breaking," they reach into their phone and go to Tucker Carlson, and he tells them we're lying to him. You know, and we just and that's the boat we're in. But I think. You know, the thing is, you know, you're a guy from Texas, I'm a guy from Tennessee, and we're common everyday people trying to tell that, you know, because a lot of times when people, you know, look to the left, they think of the elite and they think of the wealthiest because that's what they're taught. But there's people like that. There's people that thinks like me and you all over this country, and I think more of us needs to talk and find ways to speak up so that, you know, there's people that I think would come a lot closer to listening to me or you. If we were sitting with them on a bar stool, they would come a lot closer to going, yeah, maybe this guy's got a point than someone like a Tucker Carlson just mouthing off to them, just telling them what they need to hear just so he can rake in the bucks, man. It's all about his getting as rich as he can, and he'll tell them anything and scare their mamas to death, you know. You know, so many good people, too. There's so many good people that get sucked into that web of the likes of Tucker Carlson, you know, and just their web of deception.
You know, and again, it boils back down to if you try to watch Fox News, it's they like you say, they lie. They just make shit up as they go. But every spin on it is, and that's what those damn Democrats are doing. And aren't you glad you're a Republican?
Yeah.
Those damn Democrats are always doing this. And, here comes that awful son of a bitch, Paul, with that health care he wants you to have.
Yeah.
God damn him,
Yeah. Oh, I know.
I had a guy when I was building this house, man. And I contracted my own house, and I brought in some bricklayers. And one of the guys that was laying bricks, he was talking to me. I'm just giving me an earful. He didn't realize, I look like an old hillbilly boy, so he just assumed, just giving me an earful. Yeah. And I listened to him, and then I just asked him a couple questions, just to get a feeling, for where he was at. And I was like, "Hey, man, does boss man over there give you health insurance?" No. We're subcontractors. Oh, well, you got health insurance? No, man, that shit's expensive, man. That's expensive.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, man, maybe it just makes sense that, you work hard and produce, you build shit. You're the kind of guy that, we want, right? I mean,
yeah.
And when I framed it that way, hey man, you deserve this. You deserve, what would be wrong with just, saying, hey, you get like Medicare.
Mm-hmm.
You break an arm or you hurt yourself or something like that happens, then you're okay. And he was like, well, yeah, I see what you're saying, but I don't like that Obamacare shit.
Yeah.
Why? Because it says Obama on it. Well,
exactly.
Why do you not like it? Why do you not like it? Because it says Obama on it. Because he's black, and this is old hillbilly bricklayer. Ain't going to take insurance from a black man.
Yeah.
Ain't going to do it.
Yeah. And, that's the thing about it. The minute they slapped the name Obamacare on it, it didn't matter what it said at that point. Once they put that name on it, it was something that people like that was going to turn down and push away. And there was actually a skit I seen one time where this guy goes out onto the street and he asks his random people, he says, which one are you for? Are you for the Affordable Care Act or are you for Obamacare? And the people's like, I'm for the Affordable Care Act, and you're like, it's the same thing. But they use that as a negative, as a negative connotation so that people would turn against it. And I know so many people, that, like you said, like, I don't want that Obamacare, and they really didn't even know what it was,
Yeah, I tell you, I just run into it all the time, man. Just
oh, yeah.
Out here. I had a guy walk up to me in Walmart, man, an old man. And, I'm friendly. I said, hey, how you doing? How's that weather, man? We had a particularly cool day in the middle of summer. I said, hey, how you liking that weather out there? Oh, it'd be pretty good if it wasn't for that damn N-word Obama.
Yeah.
Dude, you do not know me. You do not know who I am. And if you weren't fucking 90 years old, you and me be having a go right now. But you old bastard. And his wife saw me turn beet red, man. And she walked up and said, come on, honey, let's go, honey. Yeah, let's go. And he tells me, you have a good day. Because everybody assumes I'm a racist ass hillbilly just because I'm out in the sticks. But, anyways, hey, Brando, let's do that thing we were talking about where we get somebody in the chat to mention something they'd like to hear us talk on. That's the segment we'd kind of like to do at the end of every show. Okay. And we got 15 minutes left, folks. So if there's something in particular you want to hear us talk on, let's hear it. Throw it up in there. Meanwhile, we'll just keep jawing.
Yeah, that happens to me too, man, all the time because I'm a musician and I'll be out playing bars and I'll be up there, singing a Waylon Jennings cover and people takes one look at me and then I come off stage, sit down at the bar and somebody will just walk up and just let it rip, and having no clue that I think the way I do, or they'll add me on social media and then get really disappointed when they see my videos, because it's. Some people in my part of the world, I'm sure it's the same way where you're at. They just automatically assume that anybody would be a Republican or be a Trump supporter. I have people all the time will just start talking to me like it's like, oh yeah, did you hear? And they just go right into it like without even thinking. And I'm the complete opposite of that, man. I'm going to fill people out before I just automatically assume where they stand, because I've learned that, there's a lot of times that I might have had a preconceived notion about somebody and been dead wrong. There's times I've scrolled videos on social media and went, I don't know if I want to hear this guy talk or not, and then stopped. And once I actually heard what he was saying, like, whoa, this guy's making great points, But I think a lot of times people automatically just assume that if they see someone that looks like me and you, that we must think the way they do.
And I mean, just isn't it the truth though that when you start talking topic to topic with them, we're just not that far apart.
No.
If you can just get the whole Democrat versus Republican thing out of the air, we're just not that far apart.
Yeah, and if you took those labels off of it and began talking, then I don't think you would have near as many arguments as you have. I think one of the things that we have happen is that we get on the extremes. We go out here to the extreme issues, and we start there talking about all of our extremes, and we try to start working our way toward the middle to find common ground, and we get tripped up every time. But if we could just start in the middle and say, hey, where is our common ground at? What common ground do we have? And started working outward toward the extremes, then maybe by the time we got to them, we could address them and take care of them.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to me that once you get out of that ridiculous hardcore 30%, how easy it is. And I'm really glad to see, that's the one silver lining out of this whole Roe v. Wade disaster, is that people have finally opened up their eyes and seen that, oh shit, they'll really do this, And you got old Marsha Blackburn up in your neck of the woods there, talking about overturning, people's right to contraceptives, But old Colton Austin here asked a good question. What do you think about the government's response to what's happening in Puerto Rico?
Yeah, I've Paul, you take this one because I've not followed this story.
Yeah, they got hit by a pretty bad hurricane, and it's worse than what happened last time. But, it's just Joe Biden, man. He's just quiet competence. That's all he does, man. They've got FEMA down there already, and they've already announced that they are going to have to rebuild that island's entire electric grid from the ground up. Because apparently there's like 90% of the island without power.
Yeah.
So, that's my take on it, is quiet competence. You're not hearing, you don't see, like Trump on TV. Hey, pay attention to me. I'm the greatest president ever. And watch what I do for Puerto Rico. And then doesn't do shit for him. You got Joe Biden has got the director of FEMA saying, look, get your ass in gear. Let's do it. Let's get an analysis of everything they need and what's going on and get it done. I don't know about you, but I thought they should have made Puerto Rico a state a long time ago. But the Republicans won't let us because it means people voting Democrat, Yeah,
exactly.
Colton, I appreciate that question. I appreciate that question. We got another person that's asking about again, the lack of coverage in Puerto Rico, but you got Nancy Hayes here is asking a good one about the 11th Circuit decision. And that's the one where we're talking about how basically the 11th Circuit overruled Eileen Cannon and basically just said, the classified documents are the classified documents. Did anybody hear any more about it other than, I only caught the edge of it where they were, they were talking about how Trump's request to slow things down and everything just went down the shitter.
Yeah.
Did you hear anything about that, Brando?
I haven't.
You and your damn job, man.
I know, man. I'm literally stuck at my job for 10 hours a day plus my 30-minute back and forth. So from 4:30 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening, I'm just busy. It's and then I come home and the news just swarms me, and I'm like, holy crap! I got to slow down and read this stuff, and because there's just so much happening in the world, it's crazy. And I actually had some friends messaging me today, telling me, hey, it's breaking. Guess what's happening? And I'm like, oh, man, and I've got a few minutes on a break. I'm trying to read it and catch up. But
I got one straight for you. Old Tanya Steers here. This is a good one for you, brother.
Okay.
Because you live in that trifecta of West Virginia, Kentucky, and Tennessee. So you know about these school problems, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reading the question.
If you look at state school rankings in 50 in 50 states, Republican states are on the bottom. They like them dumb.
Yeah, they do. And you know that's like I was saying earlier, that's the audience they try to appeal to. And like Trump said, he saw like the poorly educated and just keeps them, voting against their own interest. It's one of those things that it's such a hard shell to crack, man, because people in my part of the world, they grow up poor and they're taught to they took to church at a young age, they're taught to believe in God, and they're taught to respect the flag, and they're taught, we've all got family members that's been in the service and served in the military, fought in wars. And along comes the Republican Party and says, "Hey, these evil Democrats, they hate your God and they hate the flag your granddaddy fought for, and they're going to take your gun away that he gave you for your birthday." And it just keeps people voting against their own interest and keeps them dumbed down. And it's one of the saddest things that I've witnessed, and it happens in all corners of the country, but especially down here. And they just keep exploiting that ignorance. And the one thing is, I've always said, if you watch movies, if you watch comedians, a lot of times, some of my favorite comedians are guilty of doing this. When they start talking like an idiot, they'll automatically go into a real thick Southern accent, and automatically they do, and to make us sound as dumb as possible, and it's one thing if we all have a good laugh at ourselves. I'm not saying that we can't have a good laugh at ourselves, but it's different when they're laughing at us, and I just feel like that Republican politicians are. I feel like they're laughing at us. I feel like they're laughing all the way to the bank. It's like, I just picture them all sitting around in the room saying, "Hey, we got to figure out how to get this demographic. So how do we do it?" Well, they believe in God, they got guns, and they love to hunt and fish. So let's tell them the Democrats are going to take every bit of that from them. And there's people in the area I grew up in that went to the same school I did. A lot of the education I got, honestly, was after I got out and started trying to figure things out on my own, because we really, I don't know, it's a different world.
I tell you what kills me, the one that just burns me up. Tanya, thank you for the question. It was a good question. A good comment. It was a good comment. But the one that gets me, really gets me, is John Kennedy.
Yeah.
John Kennedy, the senator from Louisiana, and you'll know who I'm talking about when I mention it. But John Kennedy is the one. He's Harvard educated. I've heard the man speak. He can speak without an ounce of an accent. He can talk like he's on the 10 o'clock news.
Yeah.
But he will turn around the minute you put a camera on him, and he turns into Foghorn Leghorn.
Yeah.
I say, that you can't believe what these Democrats are doing. And I'm like, man, just shut up.
Oh, God, it's one of my biggest pet peeves in this world, Paul. Like, it's that right there will get me so fired up and going so quick when I see that kind of persona. And it makes me even more upset when I see people falling for it and okay with it. It's like, hey, this guy's in character. He's pulling your leg. To me, it's one of the most insulting things when people do that. It should be insulting to people like us. I don't see how anyone could find it funny myself.
And then people in Louisiana just eat it up. Them old white boys just eat it up. Oh, he's one of us. He's one. No, he's not. He's a rich brat that went to Harvard, man. Yeah. Jesus Christ. So Tanya added a great comment. They have people teaching that haven't even graduated high school, and that's a fact. That's a damn shame. And what Florida's doing right now is a damn shame with their schools. They're saying that if you were a veteran, then you can teach, basically. Yeah. And I'm like, man, I know a lot of screwed up people that were veterans, man. I love veterans. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for what they do, but just because you were a cook in the Army don't mean, or a cook on a boat in the Navy don't mean you need to be teaching, high school physics. You know what I'm saying? That just ain't right, man.
Yeah.
I got a guy here with a comment that's actually just a little bit backwards from the truth. So red states are driving businesses to leave their states by wrecking their schools and forcing birth. The Roe v. Wade decision, I'll agree with you. There. Is driving some people out, but businesses are really eating up these red states. They really are. Yeah. I mean, because you don't have to be that bright to to put tires on a car, on an assembly line. They can teach you one job. They can teach you to install a steering column. Yeah. You know what I mean? They don't need a whole ton of bright people to build factories, and they can come to a state like Texas. And this is what pisses me off. People think Texas has money because Elon Musk declares his residency here. Well, no, Elon Musk owns a little bitty house outside Austin, little tiny place. And you think he lives there? No, he's on his damn yacht in Greece. Yeah. But he declares his residency here in Texas. My state has become a tax dodge, Brando. Yeah. It just pisses me off. The latest thing that they do is there's a town called Frisco north of Dallas. It's just it's those McMansions, man. They're like 4,000 square feet houses, and you can spit on your neighbor's house. Yeah. I mean, they're just boxed in one right after the other, and they come into town. These wealthy ass people live in Connecticut, Elon Musk, and people that don't want to pay taxes where they're from. And they buy a house in Frisco, declare it their residence, rent the house out. Nobody checks. Yeah. Nobody checks. So they got somebody paying the mortgage on the house, and they're living up in their family compound in Connecticut, not paying taxes here because our taxes are based off sales taxes and property taxes. So you're getting a little tiny bit of property taxes off of them, maybe a couple $1,000s. Meanwhile, they're pocketing millions of dollars by declaring that they live here. And people think that we're rich because their income counts, whenever Abbott produces the statistics, he's counting Elon Musk's wealth. Yeah. Well, Elon Musk don't live here. Yeah. He don't eat here. He doesn't drink here. He doesn't buy his shit here. Give me a freaking break, dude. Yeah. And it's just, and so I have to disagree with you. I don't think that Southern red states are running people off. I think Southern red states are producing a new China for these billionaires. Yeah. Is what I think.
I agree.
Hey, Tony's here. Tony Michaels, my man. Hey. Good to see you, buddy. Glad you could catch the last of the show. So, folks, we're down to 2 minutes. Somebody throw me a good question out there. We're going to do this segment. What do you think, Brando? Should we do this every show? Last 10 minutes, we'll leave it to the people in the chat.
I think so, yeah. We want to encourage people to ask your questions and hear from you, hear your comments.
Last one. Throw me a good question out there. Oh, it's quiet.
Everybody's under pressure.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're down to the last minute. I want to thank you for coming in, watching the show. Brando and I are just getting started. Actually, we're going to talk about the time. The time next week may be a little bit different. We may start it an hour later. I did not realize that we were running up against Midas Touch and their podcast at the same time. So Brando and I will have a talk about that, and we'll probably do this an hour later next week. So that you can go in, you can watch the Midas Touch, and then just come right over here and catch us and enjoy the evening news with us. Awesome. There's a good one right there. There's a good comment. On the way out the door, we got 30 seconds, man. What's your thoughts, Brando? Putin threatened nukes again today.
Man, it's a scary world we're living in, Paul, because now, we've got a guy like Putin and a guy like Trump, and it's a very scary world. It really is.
It is. But a lot of people don't know this. I want to throw this out there for the folks that are here. Biden did it very quietly because he isn't Trump.
Yeah.
He's kept a world war from breaking out in Europe, and when the president of Russia declared that they were going to use nukes if Ukraine invaded Crimea, Biden very quietly said, "We will wipe Moscow off the map."
Wow.
He very quietly sent a message through the ambassador that said, if one nuclear weapon goes off in Ukraine, we will wipe Moscow off the map. And that's why I like old Joe. Well, Brando, I hate to call it a quits, man, but our time, can you believe it's been an hour? Can you believe it's been an hour?
Quick. We was worried we couldn't fill it. But
folks, I sure appreciate I sure appreciate you for joining us. We'll be here next week, probably an hour later. Okay, look for the updates, and that way we won't make you choose between us and Midas Touch. Love you, folks. Thanks for coming, Brando.
Thank you, guys.
Always good to see you, my brother.
Always good to see you, man. I can't wait till next week.
All right, bud. Take care.
You too.